Giant eye here.
Hey, Blue Table fans! I'm here to talk to you about the miniatures assembly and painting industry specifically, and the war games industry in general on some items. First off, I want to say that every time you have a new idea, there's going to be resistance. And that's natural. There are two competing forces inside of a human. One is for stasis, for the tried and true, for nostalgia, for what can be seen directly in front of oneself. The other one is for dynamism. It's for going out on a new adventure, to try new things, to adapt, and to create. And both of these forces certainly have their place. In the story The Hobbit, the main character Bilbo Baggins has both of these forces fighting as the two sides of his family. The Baggins side, which likes the comforts of home, and the Took side, which wants to go out and fight and have adventures. And I believe that each of us has that inside of ourselves. So there is going to be resistance, and usually when you try and break out of your shell and you try and do something differently, better, or go on an adventure of some kind, you will find resistance from unexpected quarters from people that you know and love. So if you're mentally prepared for that, it becomes easier to expect it and just not let it get you down. And when I was watching Man vs. Wild, in the very first episode, when he's out there trying to survive on his own, he says the secret to survival is just to try new things. Just if something doesn't work, just move on to the next thing. And in business, it's the same thing. It's like a jungle. There, you have to adapt yourself really, really quickly, or you're gonna get eaten up. And so, to my mind, if you try 8 different ideas and only one of them works, that's actually a pretty good ratio. But it is a little heartbreaking to see your other ideas fall by the wayside and not work out. But you can also adapt internally, moving an idea forward, not abandoning the idea entirely, but changing it and adapting it to different circumstances. So I guess it sounds cliched, but try again. Now, for me, about 8 months ago, I was presented with a question, which is, if I could live my life any way that I wanted, if I could have things any way that I desired, if I could write my own ticket, how would I want it? And this has been a very personal journey that I haven't shared overly much with the world. But that question is, how would I have things if I could have things any way that I wanted? And without limitation, without letting anyone else tell me that it couldn't be done, without even letting the voice of another person get inside my mind and tell me, well, that's not realistic, that's greedy, or that just can't be done, and to let all those things get in the way. But because that's not the question. The question isn't how would you do it, it's how would you want it if you could have it any way that you wanted it. And it's a fun exercise. What I've noticed, though, is that my mind is not unlike a drug addict, right? Do I really want to phrase it that way? But here we go. And so a drug addict has introduced an element into his body that is unhealthy, that is detrimental. But so you would think if he stopped introducing that element, that immediately the body would react and say, and give some sort of reward. Oh wow, I feel immediately better. Guy, thank goodness that's over. But it doesn't do that. You go through withdrawals, one would go through withdrawals, and so there's a period of suffering that happens, and it's the same thing with your mind. Once you start guarding your mental kingdom from negative thoughts getting in, from worry, from doubt, from fear, from playing out undesirable scenarios in your mind, that actually your brain, well, I'm basing this on my experiences, what I found is my brain rebelled against that, and I was actually like curled up in fetal position, and it was like, oh, it was just horrible. I'm like, what is going on inside my own head? And when all I'm trying to do is think about positive things. Well, I had become so addicted to playing out, fearful or nightmare scenarios in my mind, and I'm generally a very positive and happy and upbeat and optimistic person, but I've really ramped it up recently, and so getting rid of those old fears and superstitions was not an easy thing, and I'm still working on it. You're looking at a very imperfect human being. You're looking at somebody who is really very much still fighting to improve himself. So basically, I spoon-fed myself awesomeness a little bit at a time until now I'm just like, okay, yeah, now I get it. And now I'm out there doing awesome things, even more awesome things than before. And I'm really super excited. So let's move on. Let's talk about the industry that I'm in. I have been doing this since 2004. Before that, I was a school teacher, and I have gone through credentialing programs. And in fact, I had to come up with my final project thing. I can't remember what it's, a capstone, I think. Anyways, it was a binder like this thick, just full of things that I had done, and because you really have to figure out, what is the basis of teaching? How does it really work? All right, so when there's a demand, an industry rises up to meet that, or I guess generally speaking. So what happens is there's these games called miniatures battles games, and when you buy the pieces for them, they come in an unusable state. You get a big pile of sprues, or a little pile of metal pieces, and you can't do anything with them. They're in an unusable state. Now, of course, the hobbyist, the thing that he's hoping to get out of this is the joy of putting them together and seeing a finished product, not unlike a model airplane or model train. On the other hand, there are games to be played with this, and most people are going to want to actually play those games. And so, therefore, there's a demand to get this done. If one doesn't do it themselves, then someone else has to do it. So, I've gone into length about this, so I'm going to skip that part and skip right ahead to what does it look like. Right now, there is one company that has 22 employees. I'm going to measure the size of the company by employees. So 22 times employees, and that is BTP. And I believe that's how many it is. It could be 20, 24. And then the next highest one is at 12 times. And if I'm missing anything, I'm open to hear a different story. I'm always ready to hear something more accurate than I already have it. Okay, so and then you've got several that are like maybe 2, 3, or 4 people. And then there are about a zillion soloists. Now, a couple of years ago, we did a market report. I had a business systems analyst, and he went in and he found as much as he could. He found everything out there as far as who was doing the same thing I was doing. And what we found is, I believe it was 227 other companies. I actually believe it's more. I think it's somewhere in the 500 to 800 range right now. And but most of them are defunct. So they have a website up, but you can't really contact them. And I believe, now when I entered the field 9 years ago, this didn't exist. There were just, I don't even know if there were even any companies that were just a group of people. There probably were. But it was just all soloists, and that's how the industry or the demand was met. And so my point is, this one that's 12 times, by the way, that's worthy painting. So I don't think it's happenstance that I'm involved with both of these. It's because I've endured the hard knocks, I had a vision, and I learned how to put this together in a more sustainable fashion. And I have an absolute ton of insights on that. I would say that I'm an industry pioneer, and that is absolutely no exaggeration. So now, saying that, I have a ton of flaws. I'm not good at certain things. Sometimes I'm surprised that I got this far, But of course, at this stage, I don't have to be good at everything. I just have to find someone who's good at whatever that is. So a zillion soloists. Now, here's where I believe it's going, is I believe that the soloists that are doing it, what I call beer money painters, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, this is America, but I'm just saying that there are solo painters out there who are doing it really as just a side operation, and they might not even be particularly interested in doing it long term, so they're not going to be around in a year. And what I believe is those guys are going to they're going to give way to a new mid-level company that is going to service things in a reasonable, sustainable fashion. So what you're going to have is you're going to have more of this coming up, where it's probably 2 to 5 people involved. Now, I did think, because based on my calculations, I did think that I could grow this a lot more. But now that I'm looking at it again, I believe that the nature of the beast for the war games industry is fragmentation. And right now we are seeing that in the production end of thing, the actual making of the miniatures. You see a bunch of actors just climbing right over this low barrier to entry, and there's just a ton of them just ready to pick up a sword and start wailing. Now, there are hold on, I'm not ready to talk about that. Okay, so anyway, I think it's going to give way to a bunch of mid-level, and then some of these will actually grow up to maybe 8 to 12 people. And as you know, I've already talked about my business plan. I'm shooting for, on the artist's end, if you add administrative, about 30 times. And then I have other things going on. But Blue Table Painting does have an optimum size that I believe is right for the industry and really is suited to maneuver well in what the real situation is. So I don't believe that it's going to be possible to get some sort of monolithic structure with how this goes, because the barrier to entry really is quite low. So and I also have to consider, well, if I have any influence here, how can I use that to shape things for good? And I believe that a loose confederation of relatively cooperative entities is going to be better than a thing where it's cutthroat. And I have to say, I really don't like that. And it also is like when we go to Adepticon, I'll feature other painting services on my channel. Well, why would I do that? Doesn't make any sense. Well, there's different reasons. There's a personal reason, there's a philosophical reason, and there's a business reason. The philosophical reason, yeah, I know that's not the order I said them in. Philosophical reason is that I'm a bit of a cornucopian. I believe that the universe is vast and full of atoms, that the earth is full, that there's plenty to go around, and quite frankly, I think that if a bunch of people are fishing on a dock and one of them goes over and kicks over the other guy's bait bucket and is like, get out of here, I might want to fish there sometime. That's really not a good situation. But then on the other hand, you also don't want a thing where people are showing up and they're throwing dynamite in and just blowing up a crater, grabbing their fish, and then hightailing it out of there. And the equivalent here, that does happen, is that there is such a thing as a not good soloist, a bad soloist, who basically gives the industry a bad name by not coming through, or whatever it is, by lack of reliability and sustainability. And so the solution to that is to make sure that there are good actors in place, and that'll give rise to a competitive market. And a business person doesn't like competition. It makes them work harder for just a little bit less. But on philosophical grounds, I believe in that. And then there's a personal reason, which is I'm having a good time. I decided the size of business that I think suits me very well, and I just don't like that thing where there's unfriendliness. Now, there can be competition still by trying to be the best I can be, And then, of course, there's a business reason, which is I believe the war games industry is in a bit of a golden age of Camelot, where everything is young, we're really quite naive about things, and we see. I'm talking for a bunch of people now, where there really is a community. There's a sense of camaraderie that people care about what happens to other people, and I really just want to hold on tight to that as long as possible. If not, set it up just to kind of, that's the ingrained culture. So now on to my business mentoring. And if you follow the link in the liner notes, you'll find out what it is. And I'm offering my services as a guide to help anybody that's interested. Maybe it's not miniatures, assembly, and painting. Maybe it's another type of thing, like laser cutting pieces, or actually making a miniatures game, or you're going to open a game shop. Anything in this industry, I'm relatively familiar with it, even if it's not my forte, and I'm intimately familiar with the industry in general and how to bring a business up from one person all the way up to whatever you see right now. And but that is for money. I'm offering a service. And I believe the service is really useful. I thought about this long and hard. This didn't just fly right out of there. And quite frankly, I was a little nervous. But, I put that out of my mind. You can't let fear dominate you. And I got myself out there, and I'm not going to stop. I believe that it is an excellent, excellent idea, which is effectively, I'm going to, or I can explain how to get your business and kind of set it up and become one of those mid-range operations. So here are my credentials. One is I was a teacher. I do have formal training as a teacher. I don't put a ton of stock in that. I think it's actually the practice of doing it that has been very useful. However, my other credential is Worthy Painting. That Worthy Painting, the owner, Nick, when he came to me, he was working the phones at a company, not earning very much, not happy, and he actually wanted to be an extension of Blue Table Painting, but I spoon-fed him awesomeness over the months and got him to the point where he was ready to take the plunge. Now, I'm not trying to take credit for where it's gotten now, because I was only really there intensively at the beginning. And really, it's up to the drive of the individual person. So let me talk about the different options here. But before I get into that, so this video is going to be viewed by probably 1,000 people, maybe as many as 2,000. So this video really isn't for everybody up to this point. Up to this point it is for everybody. But after this point, I'm really only trying to reach a very small amount of people. I get 40 to 100, just off the top of my head, inquiries a year saying, "Hey Shawn, this looks like my cup of tea. Please tell me how you do it." And I answer those the best I can. And I've started to, I'm happy to do it. I've made some generic responses that can just give somebody kind of some general information. And that's all fine. So don't feel like you can't contact me and not get some friendly, helpful advice, because again, that's my philosophy. I really believe in that. But I am tired of it. What I really want to do is doing something more intensive for someone who I don't know what their seriousness level is. So that's what I'm saying. What I really want to do is find a much, much smaller group of people who are really going to take it seriously. And the money is an obstacle for that. It's almost like a test. Are you ready to get some skin in the game? Are you ready to really commit to this and make it a priority? So it looks like I only have 2 minutes left. So basically this year I'm going to be taking probably something like 6 to 10 people under my wing, only 1 or 2 every month, and really intensively talking about how how to do this. I got 1 minute left. Like that, get a close up of my face. So there's different options. One is to do this by remote, but intensive. So over the course of a month, we go through all the different stages of what it is you want to learn. There's one where it's over 6 months, but it's not intensive. It's just I'm there to help you with advice a little bit at a time, and the payment is also stretched out over the 6 months, but it's a commitment. The other one is you actually come down here for a week, and that also is extremely intensive, and this is more valuable in a 4 credit hour college course in my view, and that's about how much it costs too. So thank you very much for tuning in, and it is with glad heart and courage that I go forward with this, and I look forward to working with you as well. Thank you.